Hola clase. Voy a empezar con el tema de hoy. So we're not able to finish the past perfect, the uses of the past perfect yesterday. So I'm recording myself to go through this. So for today, for our asynchronous class, if you go to our As You Learn page and you click on chapter 15, you'll see that the presentation we're going to use is here. It's not there. It's here. Uses of the past perfect. Uses of the past perfect. And the class assignments we're going to work on today would be class assignment, the uses of the past perfect, and lectura gimnasio olímpico. So as I progress in the presentation, I'm going to ask you to complete this assignment with some of the exercise. So you have to click here in this class assignment, the uses of the past perfect practice. So we're just going to go and jump into the topic. So I want us to remember the conjugation. How do you conjugate the past perfect? And try to stop the video and think about, okay, how do you conjugate it? So, the past perfect is formed by two components. It's a compound tense. One is an auxiliary verb, the verb haber conjugated in the imperfect tense, and then a past participle. And remember, those past participles can be irregular and regular. Most of them are regular, but we have a list of at least 8 irregular ones that you have to learn for the exam on Monday. So the past perfect is also called the pluperfect in English. So you are using an auxiliary verb and a past participle. So the conjugation of the auxiliary verb haber in the imperfect tense is había. And if you're alone, it would be good that you repeat with me so you remember. So the conjugation of haber in the imperfect tense is había, habías, había, habíamos, habíais, y habían, right? And then a past participle. Remember that you cannot just put the past participle and not put the verb. That would be like instead not putting the had and just said you eaten or we lived, which is the predicate, but we're actually using this tense for as a past perfect. So you have to use both the auxiliary verb and the past participle. So whenever you are writing the sentences, remember you have to have both of them. So some reminders, like nothing can separate the verb. This is a compound tense, and the auxiliary verb haber conjugated in the imperfect tense and the past participle have to be together in Spanish. Like nothing can separate them. So for example, negations are placed before the verbs. They are not in between. They're placed before the verb. So antes de 2019 yo no había vivido en Boone. Reflexive pronouns are placed before the verbs as well. So, antes de este año yo me había mantenido en forma. So, mantenerse is a reflexive verb. The reflexive pronoun agrees with the subject. In this case, is the yo form. And is placed before the past perfect. Nothing can divide the auxiliary verb and the past participle. Antes de este año, yo no me había mantenido en forma. So, what happens when you have a negation and a reflexive pronoun or indirect object pronoun or direct object pronoun is that the no goes first, the negation always goes first, then the reflexive pronoun, and then the past perfect, the auxiliary verb haber, and the past participle. And we're going to do an exercise about this. So, these are the 10 common irregular past participle. I think I said 8 before, but sorry, there are 10. So you have to remember them. Try to memorize them. You can memorize them with this Quizlet or use a song to memorize the past participles. So So right now we're gonna do an exercise. We have here 9 sentences, and all of these sentences has a mistake in the conjugation of the past participle. And what you have to do is what we did on class with the present perfect. You have to correct the mistake, right? You have to correct the mistake. So if you go back to your assignment, you'll see you have it here. In the first one, the following sentences have one mistake in the conjugation of the past perfect. Identify the mistake, fix it, and explain why these constructions are wrong. And after you submit this, I will give you feedback on that. So we're just going to continue. Okay, so we have seen in this week the present perfect. We also so when we want to talk about a very recent past event, when we want to express something that just happened, then we don't use the present perfect in Spanish, though in English we do. We don't in Spanish. We use this acabar conjugated in the present tense plus the plus an infinitive. Then when we're talking about a recent past event, from the speaker's point of view, we use the present perfect. There are some times the present perfect is required when we're talking about actions that we have never ever done, or that we have always done, or if we're asking somebody, have you ever done this? Obviously, we have the preterite as a tense to talk about past events, and then we have the past perfect. And the past perfect, we use it to talk about something someone had done or something that had happened before another past action. So we are telling something that happened, for example, antes de cenar pizza, before having pizza, or having pizza for dinner, I had already done my homework. So you are just telling something that you had done before a past action, right? So we're going to see it some important structures in Spanish that are used with the past perfect. So the first one is when something happened, what had already or not yet happened. So we use cuando plus preterite, and then we can use ya. Ya means already, or todavía no, not yet. Todavía no means not yet. So, and then the past perfect. So with ya, we express what had already happened, and with not todavía no, we express what had not yet happened to a previous past event. So here are some examples. Cuando cumplí 16 años, when I turned 16, todavía no había aprendido a conducir. I had not yet learned how to drive. So I had not yet learned how to drive. So we place the todavía no before the past perfect. Not yet I had learned to drive. Cuando mi mamá trajo la cena, when my mom brought the dinner. So here we have the verbs in the preterite. Yo ya había comido bocadillos. I had already eaten snacks. So ya means already. I had already eaten snacks. So ya is also placed before the past perfect. So in English, we separate. We say I had already eaten. We separate the past perfect, but in Spanish, the tense is inseparable. You always have the auxiliary verb and then the past participle. Mi compañero de apartamento todavía no se había ido al trabajo cuando yo me desperté. So my roommate had not yet gone to work when I woke up. So when I woke up, my roommate had not yet gone to work. Not yet gone to work when I woke up. So todavía no always goes in front of the past perfect, and if the past participle is a reflexive verb, here you can see the reflexive ending, reflexive pronoun conjugated according to the subject, right? So todavía no is placed before the reflexive pronoun. And we're going to do some examples right now. Sorry, I wanted you to see this in like a timeline. The example that we just saw, for example, cuando cumplí 16 años, todavía no había aprendido a conducir. So I turned 16 and I had not yet learned how to drive. So this, what you're expressing with the past perfect, is a past that happened before another past action. I had not yet learned how to drive, and then I turned 16 years old. But you're not telling this in a chronological order. You're just saying like, oh, when I turned 16 years old, I had not yet learned how to drive. And then you're using the past perfect. This one is another of our examples in a timeline. So if you would see it in a timeline, it would be cuando mi mamá trajo la cena, yo ya había comido bocadillos. So what happened first? I had already eaten snacks. That happened first. And then my mom brought dinner. But I'm expressing when my mom brought dinner, event 2, I had already eaten some snacks. So right now we're going to do an exercise. La vida de Julia. ¿Qué ella había hecho Julia cuando cumplió 18 años? Write 2-3 activities using the past perfect that Julia had already done before turning 18. So here is Julia. Now she turned 18 and she had already done these actions. So using the past perfect, I want you to write 2-3 activities that Julia had already done before before turning 18. So I want you to use the structure cuando cumplió 18 años, when Julia turned 18, Julia ya, Julia already, and what activities had Julia already done. And if you go to your assignment here, this is number 2. ¿Qué ya había hecho Julia cuando cumplió 18 años? When she turned 18, what had she already done? What had Julia already done? Use the past perfect. And I'm gonna pause the video here to write your sentences. I'm gonna show you some examples in the next slide. Okay, I'm gonna go to the next slide. So please, if you have not written your sentences, pause the video and write them before watching the examples. Okay, the examples I have here. Cuando cumplió 18 años, Julia ya se había graduado de la escuela. So she graduated from school here. So when she turned 18, Julia had already graduated from high school. The escuela secundaria is high school. When she turned 18, Julia ya había enviado solicitudes a universidades. So she had already sent some applications to universities when she turned 18. She had done that before. Cuando cumplió 18 años, Julia ya había vivido en Raleigh. She had already lived in Raleigh when she turned 18. So we're using the past perfect to talk about a past action that happened before another past action. She's already turned 18. And she had already done this. Okay. The other activity I want us to do is number 3 in your practice, to talk about yourself. ¿Qué ya habías hecho? What had you already done, and what have you not yet done when something happened? So the questions are: cuando desayuné. That means when I had breakfast. Today or yesterday. Cuando desayuné. ¿Qué ya habías hecho? Sorry, here's so what had I already done? Cuando desayuné, ¿qué ya había hecho? Cuando desayuné, ¿qué todavía no había hecho? What had I not yet done when I had breakfast. What had I not yet done? Cuando fui al gimnasio ayer, when I went to the gym yesterday, que ya había hecho, what had I done already? And what had not yet done when I went to the gym yesterday. So this, you can fill this with your information, but also with fictional information. You don't have to talk about yourself. I just want you to practice using the past perfect. So when you had already done, when you did something, what had you already or not yet done? In this case, when you had breakfast today, when you went to the gym yesterday, and express yourself. And pause the presentation to complete this, and then we're going to follow to the next slide. So the second structure that's important is before something happened, what had already or not yet occurred. So for this we use antes de plus a noun, and that means before something, and then we can use ya, already, and a past perfect, what had already happened. So antes de este año or antes de 2021 yo ya había recibido clases de español. Before this year, before 2021, I had already received Spanish classes. Antes del año pasado, before last year, mi familia y yo todavía no habíamos viajado a España. Before last year, my family and I had not yet traveled to Spain. Then you can also use antes de plus an infinitive, and what you're conveying is different. You're saying before doing something. So this one, antes de plus a noun, is before something. Can be a year. And this one is if you're expressing before doing something, before an action. Ya, past perfect, or, todavía no, past perfect. What had already happened, or what had not yet happened. So we have here, antes de cumplir 10 años, yo todavía no había viajado a México. Before turning 10, I had not yet traveled to Mexico, right? So I had not traveled to Mexico before turning 10 years. Then, antes de dormirme, before falling asleep, yo ya había terminado mi tarea de español. Before falling asleep, I had already finished my Spanish homework. So, if you're talking about before doing something, or before something happening, an action, then you have to use a verb in the infinitive. And we're going to do some examples. I just want you to see these examples in a timeline first. So what you're expressing here is that antes de este año, this is the past, este año, yo ya había recibido clases de español. So with the past perfect, you're expressing something that happened before another past action, an event 1. Yo ya había recibido clases de español. Sorry for this also. So the second one is antes de cumplir 10 años. Sorry, here should be cumplir 10 años. So I turned 10 years, right? Yo todavía no había viajado a México. So I had not traveled to Mexico. I had not traveled to Mexico, and then turned 10 years. So we're going to do a practice. ¿Qué había hecho Bonnie la perra antes de cumplir 7 años? So this is now. This is when Bonnie turned 7 years, and this all the things that she had done before turning 7 years. So I want you to write 2 things using the past perfect about what Bonnie had done before turning 7. Just choose 2 of these actions and write them here. And as you learn is number 4. Que ella había hecho Bonnie. Write 2 things Bonnie had already done before turning 7 years here. Okay. And then we're going to do another practice. That's number 5. Okay, so antes de entrar a la universidad. So I want you to write one thing that you had already done before going to university, and one thing you had not yet done before going to university. And I want you to use the past perfect. So these are my examples. Antes de entrar a la universidad, yo ya había estudiado español. Before going to university or entering university, I had already studied Spanish. The next one is antes de entrar a la universidad, before going to university. Yo todavía no había sacado mi licencia de conducir. Not yet. I had got my driver's license. So I'm saying that antes de entrar a la universidad, before entering university, I had not yet got my driver's license. And then share them, not in the chat, sorry, just in here as you learn number 5. Okay, then we're gonna do structure number 3. I had never done until, and we're gonna make a comparison about the present perfect and the past perfect. So we saw yesterday that with the present perfect you can express something you never ever have, that you never have done, like you never have done. So like something that you have never done, including the present. Nunca he viajado en avión. I have never traveled by airplane. That means that you have never done it in the past, nor you are not doing it in the present. Nunca hemos ido a las Islas Outer Banks. That means that you have never gone there in the past, and that you are not there either in the present. So you can say that this one, you're just saying that you have never done in the past and neither in the present, so it's including the present. But with the past perfect, you are saying that you had never done something until, and then you use the predicate, until something else happened in the past, and now obviously that status change. So for example, nunca había viajado en avión. I had never traveled by airplane hasta que, that means until, I turned 19. So I had never traveled by airplane until I turned 19. So this one is talking about previous past action that you're saying like you had never done that, and then you turned 19 and you had, right? It's implying that you had. So now in the present, you have already done that when you turn 19. So this one excludes the present in that sense. The second example is nunca habíamos ido a las Islas Outer Banks hasta que mi padre nos llevó. So we had never went, we had never gone to the islands Outer Banks hasta que, until mi padre nos llevó, until my dad took us, right? So here you're using hasta que and the predicate to explain until something else happened in the past that changed that. So you had never done something until something happened in the past, and now you have. Then you can also use nunca plus past perfect plus hasta, that means until. So it's not hasta que. You only use hasta que with when you're following that with a predicate, hasta, and just a noun. So nunca habíamos viajado en avión hasta ahora. So we had never traveled by airplane until now. You can exclude putting hasta ahora, and you can only have nunca había viajado en avión. I had never traveled by airplane, and what you're implying is that you have now. So you can say nunca había viajado en avión. I had never traveled by airplane, and that implies that status change in somewhere, and now in the present probably you have already traveled by airplane. And then, nunca habíamos ido a las Islas Outer Banks hasta el año pasado. We had never gone to the Outer Bank Islands until last year, right? So you're saying when that happened. Hasta el año pasado. In a noun. We're gonna do some examples, a couple of examples with this. I just want you to see this in the timeline too. So for the first one, nunca había viajado en avión hasta que cumplí 19 años, right? So you're saying like you had never traveled by airplane, right? Until you turn 19. So if you see in a timeline, you're using the past perfect to talk about an event that happened previously to another past event. And now you have, right? So in the present you have, because when you turn 19, you travel by airplane. Then, ella nunca había ido a la costa oeste. So she had never gone to the East Coast. So this implies that is hasta ahora. Right? Ella nunca había ido a la costa oeste, but now, because you're using the past perfect, you're implying that she has already, right? Because when you're using the past perfect, you're excluding the present. You're implying that that was something previously to a past action, and that status changed in the present. So, ella nunca había ido a la costa oeste, to the West Coast. And now she has. Hasta ahora. Okay, we're gonna do the last example here. 6. Nunca había. What had you never done until? So I want you to write one thing that you had never done until this year, using the past perfect. And then write another thing that you had never done until you graduated high school, right? And please pause the video to complete that exercise. The last question that I want you to answer here is your reflections on the past perfect. What was easy for you? What was hard? Maybe if you can express where do you think you need if you need anything. So just try to express yourself about this topic, how you feel about it. So if we go to our homeworks, we have this video presentation that comes with an assignment on As You Learn that you're doing right now. Then we have an As You Learn assignment called Gimnasio Olímpico, and that assignment is to practice both the present perfect and the past perfect. That's what we have seen during this week, the new verb tenses. And so it's here, Gimnasio Olímpico, and it's just these questions here. If you go to our super site, there are some exercises to practice the new vocabulary, and sorry, this is the past perfect, the super site assignment of the past perfect. I'm gonna correct this, is tu vida. Then I want you to think about the final project. So if you go to As You Learn, I want you to think about the topic you want to submit. So the submission of the topic is best by today, Friday. Sorry, I just lost it again. Okay, here it is. Final project. The instructions are here. When you click here to submit your final project, it says best by Friday, May 28 at midnight. You have to submit the name of the topic you selected for your comprehensive final project. Remember that this topic has to be related to your interests. That means to your major, for example, your studies, and a Spanish-speaking culture. You will look for 2 sources. It can be magazine, articles, newspapers, but it can be also podcasts, videos, etc. to write your annotations about this same topic. So you're gonna choose this topic in order to find 2 resources. You don't have to know the resources yet. You just have to submit the topic that you would like to discuss in your final project. And after your submission, your instructor might give you feedback and commentaries to expand or narrow your topic. If you need suggestions to find resources related to your topics, please let your instructor know in class or by email or during our student hours. So you don't have to know what resources you are going to use now. You just have to submit the topic you want to talk about that is related to your studies and a Spanish-speaking country. The first resource annotation is due by next Friday, and the second one the Friday after that. So if you go to the instructions of your final project, you're gonna see here a very detailed instructions. The first step is this Friday, select the topic you want to discuss, and then the resource annotations. The first one is in English. That means that the source is going to be in English, but you're going to write in Spanish a summary of what you are seeing, reading, or watching in 5 to 10 sentences, but in Spanish. So even though your source is in English, you're going to write your sentences, your summary, to express the main ideas of what you read, watched, or heard in Spanish. And think of this as a summary paragraph of the article. And if you put this work in noun to have your sentences in Spanish, that is going to be helpful later when you do your infographic. So you always have to cite the original source when you do your resource annotations. Again, these are not due this week. This is for the next Friday and the Friday after that. The only thing I want you to submit today, if you are able, is a best by date, is to submit what topic you're thinking you would like your resources to be about. And I will give you feedback. I can give you also a list of places where you can find information about it, and so on. So that's all for today. Please, if you have any questions, reach out to me. Our exam on Monday is asynchronous, and it's already posted on As You Learn, but you will only be able to access it. You only gonna be able to access our exam on Monday, and it's gonna be closed by midnight. There is some, if you go to As You Learn, you have a study guide. Please go through the study guide. And to check your answers, there is an answer key also posted on As You Learn. I will be on Zoom available on Monday from 8 to 9:40 if you have any questions, but you don't have to be on Zoom if you don't have any questions. You can just log in if you have a question when you are doing the exam, and if you prefer, you can also email me if there is something in the exam that you're not understanding and you would like for me to explain something. So I really encourage you to look through the study guide and work through that during the weekend, because the exam is going to be very similar and you can check your answers here. And just a reminder that there's a Quizlet for extra credit for the exam. It's 10 points of extra credit to practice the vocabulary. You have to join our classroom on Quizlet first, and here's the link, and then do and then click on the Quizlet to do the vocabulary. But you have to join our class for me to be able to see your progress, and you just have to complete the items learn, spell, and test. There's a time limit for the exam, 1 hour and 30 minutes, and there's free navigation. So, well, just reach out if you need anything that would help you, or you need more information about. You can also use our questions basket here. Okay, I will email you on Monday to remind you of the exam. and of the participation self-evaluation that you have to fill out for that day. Ok, espero que tengan buen día, buen fin de semana y nos vemos el martes.